Hey, I'm Kevin, and I'm the one. The not childish one. Well, I've survived the summer before my college. I at least got my first lay under my belt. And I got my Camaro going, so I got my car that's going to save me gas mileage. Now, really it should, because I had a manual transmission, I had a 283 engine, and I had a high geared rear, so the engine didn't have to run very hard. But I had to do it with all used parts. But guess what? I don't have to borrow or anything else, because this was my graduation gift. Luggage. Samsonite luggage. Only 2 pieces, but that's really all I needed. When I went to college, I didn't take anything because I didn't have anything. Now, my parents made sure I had good luggage, but when I was running track and cross country, they didn't make sure I had a good pair of shoes. In fact, I had a pair with no padding in them, and it gave me shin splints. You know, my parents didn't give me decent equipment for showing cattle. I had to make it all. They didn't make sure that my car had good parts on it so it was safe. I had to do with what I could with what I had, but I got a nice set of luggage. So I packed my stuff up, which is just clothes. That's pretty much it. Oh yeah, I did get a calculator. But that's because they required it. My parents wouldn't have bought me that either, but it was required. And it was a Rockwell, if you believe that they ever made them. And do they go with me to college and make sure I get all set up right, and and have my mother there crying because her baby's leaving the house? Hell no. Of course, I didn't want them there either, so it was mutual, but still, that's kind of where my parents were at. So I filled the car up with gas from our farm gas and headed out. I didn't head out early. I left on a Sunday, probably midday. It's a 4-hour drive from Tawnytown to Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I'd only ever been there once. I didn't take a map. And away I went. Got there with no troubles. I pulled up to the house that I'm going to live in. My parents somehow found this place. This was a good deal. Very strange, though. Why me? Boy, I had to ask, why me? Now, everything I'm going to tell you now didn't just all happen right the first day, but here I pull up to this house, and it's a duplex, but it's a mansion. Now, I never heard of a mansion where there's 2 of them attached to each other, but this was the case. So there was a left and a right. And why do I say it was a mansion? It had peaks on it, on circular roof lines, and 12-foot ceilings, and 3 stories high. This thing was huge. Even just half of it was huge. This lady that owned it, her husband apparently was dead. She rented out 2 rooms, so 4 people got to stay there. But on top of that, she turned her dining room into a restaurant. And so any student could come there for a meal, or they could actually pay her in advance, and they would have guaranteed meals for the whole month, which was pretty nice. You know, that sounds like, well, this is all right, you know, but now we got to get to know the people. I'm telling you that the Addams family had nothing on these people. That might be a slight exaggeration. The Addams family would have probably been a little more fun, since they had the train garden with train wrecks and stuff like that. But here, the lady that owned the house, she, in fact, I can't even tell you what her name was. I have no idea. I can't remember. I don't know that I ever even said her name. But that's also partially me. So well, let's back up a little bit. I'm going to tell you where my room was. You go up wooden steps onto a huge wraparound porch. And then there's this glass door, leaded glass. And you open that up and you're in the foyer. Huge set of steps, takes you to the second floor. Of course, it's 12-foot ceilings, so there's a lot of steps. And right off to the right, well, there's a hallway that takes you back to the dining room. And off to the right is a door that takes you into the living room. Well, the living room was my bedroom that I shared with, of course, another student. The living room was huge. I mean, we had all kinds of space. There was a fireplace in it, of course, being this house was quite old. And the fireplace, I think, was closed off. But my roommate had his TV set and everything else set up in there. And you just had a metal cabinet to hang your clothes in. Although I never used it, I just lived out of my suitcase. So, and a chandelier is what lit the room. So, it was quite unique. And of course, the front was a bay window. And so I could see everybody coming in and out of the house. And I could hear them because of the wooden steps. And I have a story about my roommate that I'll get to at some point. So anyway, now we're going to meet the people that run the place and all. First was the owner of the house and the lady that ran the restaurant. She was probably a foot shorter than me, and at the time I was 5'10" at best. I'm 5'9" now. I'm on my way down, that's for sure. She never hardly said anything. She would run around the house like Cousin It, wobbling around and always in a hurry. You know, nothing was, and she knew how to get mad too, although I can't say she ever yelled at me, but I could hear her yelling at, like, her assistant, yeah. Anyway, then we'll talk about her assistant. Now this lady made me think of a white-haired albino black person. She was actually white, but her features and everything just gave me the thought of her being black, and her hair was an afro. I mean, it was gray and it stuck out everywhere, and from what I understand, she wasn't that old, but you know, she looked old. Part of that's due to the fact she was a smoker, so that didn't help her out. She was always tired. I mean, from the very minute you saw her in the morning till the last time you saw her in the evening, she was always sighing and going and waddling around like she was on her last leg. When she would serve the meals out in the dining room area, she'd come out there with a cigarette in her mouth, you know, and handing out your food. The food was edible, you know. In fact, some meals were quite good. The lady didn't try to make anything really special. The one thing that I definitely was tired of, though, was the instant mashed potatoes. In fact, for years after that, I just wouldn't even eat mashed potatoes because I had them so much while I was there. So, you know, then there was her son. Now, she was short, but I guess he was technically a little person. But he didn't have the fat fingers and things like that you're used to seeing, and his head wasn't so much bigger than his body. So I'm not sure how you would, you know, say what was the deal with him. He was born the same day I was. Different year, but same day. He had gone to Williamsport Area Community College as a draftsman. He graduated, but he never got a job. And all he did all day was watch TV. Every once in a while he'd leave the house, but not very often. He didn't help as far as I ever saw in the kitchen or cleaning or anything like that. Not at all. The TV room was on the second floor, and I actually, getting to be friends with him, every once in a while I would actually sit in there and watch TV with him. And we got along fine. We just, you know, I would rib him a little bit because that's the way I am. I'm a sarcastic person, and I have this habit of pointing out things that people aren't doing. So, you know, but I never got him pissed off at me that I know of. And so here we have three of the characters. Now the fourth one, his name, well, the boy's name was, and I shouldn't call him boy, he was older than me, but anyway, he was, his name was Marlon, and just a name that I'd never heard anybody use before. So then there was this old man. His name was Cyril. He walked around with his head bobbing and looking down at the ground, and he shuffled his feet, and the only time he ever left the house was to go to the high school and college sports, to watch like basketball or football or whatever. I think he might even went to the Little League games, because I don't know if you know, but the World Series of Little League baseball is played in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which I of course didn't know. I mean, it's pretty wild that people come from all over the world. Teams come from all over the world to play there, and in fact now you'll see them on TV. on a regular basis. You can watch him. And here so Cyril, he would go, and his deal was is somehow he got injured while he was working, got hit in the head with something, and put him out of commission, and so he was a little off in the head. And then there was the last person in the house who I never saw. This was the mother of the lady that owned the house. She was bedridden. The way I understand it, she was over 400 pounds. My roommate told me they had to take her out on a stretcher once, and this was while I was there, but I missed it. I always miss everything like that. I don't know why it is. I've never seen a fight. I've never seen a dead person, you know, except at a funeral, and I've never seen ambulances or a fire, except for the ones I created myself. I like fire. And anyway, and so she would, you know, she would be in this room, and she would imagine things, and she would a lot of times call for Marlon. Never called for anybody else, but she called for Marlon. Marlon. It was hilarious when she would start hollering for him, and I have a story about her. Well, in fact, I guess I'm just going to go ahead and tell this one. So one time, it's late at night, I'm already in bed. Now my room is actually right below the lady's room that was bedridden, the mother. And she's, for some reason, got herself reached around and fell out of bed. And when she hit the floor, the whole house shook. It scared the crap out of me. And I'm laying there with the covers up over me, and I feel all this dust and dirt falling on my face because the ceilings are 12 feet high, so they had never been wiped down or anything. And all this dirt all over my bed and everything else. And I'm laying there in my crap, and I'm hearing this lady, Marlon, Marlon, and I'm thinking, what the hell is he gonna do? You know, he's just such a little guy, and she keeps hollering, and he comes over to her door and says, just shut up. Nobody can do anything for you. I have to wait till my mother gets home. You know, Marlon, get me back in bed. I can't do anything for you. Just shut the fuck up. And anyway, that went on for a while, and finally his mother got home, which actually this might lead into another story. This was Wednesday night, and they would always go out and play bingo. Her and the lady that helped her, I can't think of what you would call her. Anyway, her housekeeper. So anyway, he got back, and somehow they got her back in bed. The housekeeper would stay there all week. She would just go home on weekends. So on the third floor were all their bedrooms. I never went to the third floor. It was like I was scared too. It was bad enough going to the second floor. But here's the other story. When those two ladies would go out for bingo, they would apparently they served beer there at the bingo hall, and sometimes they'd come back trashed, and I mean so bad that they would get into arguments with each other, and they'd be screaming and hollering at each other back in the kitchen, and you'd think, man, why don't you two just go to bed? But the other thing too is they would always bring a quart of beer for each of them home. So they had no intentions of heading to bed anytime soon. You know, I guess that was their one night a week where they tore it up. And they did a good job of it, that's for sure. I want to say the lady that owned the place, though, I mean, she was very nice to me in that even when I couldn't make it back to the house to eat lunch, she would make me a packed lunch. And the housekeeper, if I didn't make my bed, she would make it. Now, I always made my bed, but my roommate, he didn't. So, now why I got sent in that house and why I had to experience them people, and there's a lot of other stories, and I'll probably get into them as well. But there I am, you know, my first day of college, with all I got's a suitcase. Oh yeah, and $15. That's all my parents gave me to live on the whole week. And I had to buy the gas to get home on the weekend. So $10 was for gas. So I had $5 for the whole week. Alright. Talk to you next time.